Greetings, fellow humans. Katrina here. Quick disclaimer. I am a clinician. I am not your clinician. Any and all information is to be taken for amusement and educational purposes only. This is not a substitute for treatment or medical advice, legal advice, or any other advice under the sun. If you need professional assistance, contact your local resources in your area. Disclaimer done. What I'm going to tell you about today is what I don't know about rules. First, I'll tell you about a few different types of rules, then a little bit of the laws of man, laws of nature. And then what I really don't know about, but I hear a lot about, is shoulds, those rules that are a cognitive distortion, sometimes not so helpful. Here we go. Rules can be anything as small as starting at home, okay? In your family, there are rules about the chores and bedtime. Now we've got friends, expanded a bit further. We've got work, school. Really any groups, large or small, will have their own set of rules. And then you have city, county, state, larger than that, national, even larger than that, international. And thanks to folks like Elon Musk, don't you know, one day we're going to have those interstellar rules. Many people break rules based on their own internal moral compass. So a kiddo might break the rules of being on the electronic device after a certain hour till they get caught, right? And then it's like, whoops, okay, learn not to do that again. The thing about it, though, is those emotions people feel when they break rules, such as guilt or regret, in my unpopular opinion, are quite useless, as those emotions do not seem to keep people from doing bad things. I have my little soapbox about that, but I'd like to move on to the laws of nature. The laws of nature are more like mathematical observations, and they're fairly consistent over time. You can fall back on the math. You want to check out folks like Goss, Column, Franklin, or my favorite, Mr. Neil deGrasse Tyson, is a lovely teacher of some of the physics and those sorts of rules that rule nature. And then there's the laws of man, all right? Those are the laws that most people refer to when they talk about breaking the law. I have yet to meet a human being in my little tiny corner of the world who has not broken the law on the road of speeding. That's right. The speed limit's 30, you're going 33. Speed limit's 40, you're going 41. I actually go the speed limit, and people do not like that, so I stay in the right lane where the slow traffic is. But the laws that are on the books that governments and or religions, both large and small, really fall back on is to keep that law and order in terms of living in a civilized society, because, you know, we all need to be kind to one another, and that is not necessarily 100% within the human condition to remain kind to others. We have all of these laws in place that says, you know, you can't just go killing people, and you can't just go taking people's property. That's called stealing. And we can't do this and we can't do that. And that's all well and good. The theory behind that is that if we could, we would. I don't necessarily ascribe to that. I choose kindness. And it's really not that hard to not go doing things that are useless or harmful. But other folks, it's not that simple. Other folks really need those laws in place to deter unhelpful behavior in society. Now for the one that I really know a little bit more about what I don't know about is that cognitive distortion of should. Shoulds or oughts can be rules in our own minds that can be helpful, harmful, or neutral. So just like the aforementioned rules, the reason questioning the shoulds that pop into our mind can be helpful is because, to my knowledge, so far, humans cannot control the first thing that first thought, feeling, or sensation that we sense, mostly we can control the second once we learn how. Don't get me wrong, that is easier said than done, or I wouldn't have a job. But my tip of the day is to ask oneself right now, what needs to be done about this? If the answer is nothing, then the mind can chill. Now, typically, low self-esteem and increased anxiety can occur if we shoulda, coulda, woulda, oughta in the past, or if we attempt to rule the future with predictions ad nauseum. My advice there is if you focus on the future, but have never followed through on coping ahead with that worst case scenario happening and surviving it, then that's pretty useless rumination on the future. If you have experienced coping ahead, which I believe was a Marshall Linehan DBT technique, then it is almost uncomfortable to really picture the worst case scenario occurring and surviving through it. That's the key. You don't just picture the worst case scenario. You imagine all of the things that you would think and say and do and feel to survive that situation, coming out on the other side, alive and well, anxiety, poof, gone. Because we know what would happen in worst case scenario. No need to focus on it and plan for it when we already know in the present. So what I told you about today was most certainly where we get rules, humans, the measurable laws of nature and the arbitrary laws of man. And then I told you a little bit about how our own internal experience can be distressing if we're unaware of the rules we live by in terms of the stories we tell ourselves. So remember to like, comment, share, or don't. But if you feel like tossing a couple bucks my way, you feel free to do that as well. I do appreciate each and every one of y'all's existence.